Hi everyone, it's Natasha. Today or this video is going to be a very different video from most of my videos, if not all that I've done so far. So as I've mentioned before, I'm pregnant and this is going to be a pregnancy vlog. When I first got pregnant, I didn't know I was pregnant. My husband and I have been trying since the previous month to get pregnant, and we successfully got pregnant the month 2. So what we did was I spoke to a doctor. I think it's just my personality. So I did, I like to be prepared. So when I felt like I was ready to get pregnant and, try to actually get pregnant, I spoke with my doctor and I was advised to Google basal temp chart, and that really helped a lot. So what I did to prepare to getting pregnant was, she said that just get a thermometer, and it doesn't have to be special. It just has to make sure that it works and that I do it every day. So I got a digital thermometer. I read a little bit about the basal temp chart. A little bit. Okay, I read a lot about it. Let's be honest. I do really thorough research when it comes to certain topics, ideas, certain things that I'm very intrigued or interested in. I'm going to research as much as I can. So from what I remember, there are certain things that you need to follow in the basal temp, and she was just telling me, there's nothing to be worried about. You're at a certain age that you should it should be fine for you to get pregnant. It should be the only reason probably if you're not getting pregnant is not following the specific time that you're ovulating. So if anybody doesn't know, you only ovulate 24 hours per cycle. I have an irregular cycle, so I don't go with the 28 days. My cycle is way longer than 28 days. So the basal temp, the basal chart did really help a lot, because those ovulation sticks are incredibly expensive, but they were helpful. So if when you go through the basal temp chart, there's also instructions, and if the one that you found didn't come with instructions or I think I just got a text, didn't come with anything, what I would suggest you do is you do a lot more reading into it. It will tell you that there would be a huge spike in your temperature, and you have to take the temperature before you wake up. You can't just go to the bathroom and relieve yourself. You can't drink any water. You can't brush your teeth first. You can't do anything. You can't eat first. The moment you wake up, you can't even speak. You just make sure your thermometer is ready, as well as your chart. I had my chart with me on my nightstand, as well as my temp, and not temp, my thermometer. And so I just did that every morning when I woke up. So the first time it didn't happen because there were a few times that I missed doing the basal temp, and I was also getting very sick. The month prior, I was getting very sick, that I was hooked up with a lot of prescription medication. So I just kind of thought, I did talk to the doctor that I had at the time, and I said, my husband and I are trying to get pregnant. I don't know if I'm pregnant. I wanted to say that just so they would give me medication that would be safe for someone that might get pregnant or probably is already pregnant. And they always gave me the pregnancy safe medication just in case that happened. So anyway, I got pregnant, and probably in my first month. So I probably was pregnant maybe 1 or 2 weeks. I'm not sure. I remember waking up in the middle of the night because something itched on my face, and I remember scratching it with one finger. And I didn't scratch it like crazy. It was, you know how sometimes you have like something bothers your skin, it kind of itches, but it's not crazy, and then you just do this. That's all I remember I did. I woke up and there was this huge vertical line on my right cheek, and that was kind of strange. It itched a little bit. It also kind of burned a little bit and it stung, but I didn't think a lot about it. I think I put some hydrocortisone because I have very sensitive skin. I get rashes and hives and breakouts from things that I'm allergic to, so I always have hydrocortisone. If anybody doesn't know what that is, that's an anti-itch cream. So I just put it on my face, and I just went along with my day. As the day progressed, I don't stare at my face all day. So whenever I had the chance, like maybe I would, in my peripheral vision, there would be a mirror in my peripheral vision at some point. I think I was in the bathroom washing my hands, and I noticed when I glanced up that my right cheek got worse. It was just, I always have kind of like rosy cheeks. But my right side was definitely redder than my left. And I can tell it just looked somewhat off, like it was slightly puffy. And the red wasn't like the normal blush that I get from just my skin being just normal, having like colors in my cheeks. I got a little worried about that, so I added some more of the hydrocortisone. I also added what did I get? I think I got no, I have the Derma E Antiseptic, and it helped cool it. However, the very next day, it got predominantly worse. Not only was it here, it was all over my forehead, my other cheek as well. So the only parts that really didn't get it was above my lip, or like this ear, no, I think I had it there. So around here, like on my nose, above my lips, underneath my lips where my chin area is, and it just kind of concentrated on my face. It didn't go below the edges of my face. So the very next day, I went to my pharmacy, and I was looking at wanting to see maybe they might have something else that I could use. I found that, and I don't know when it started for the over-the-counter, that there was this ointment or cream or gel-like that had 4% lidocaine. So what I initially, thought of lidocaine, I thought of going to the dentist. So I was there in front of the aisle of the first aid aisle, allergy aisle, and stuff like that. I just thought it was an allergy. I Googled that over, and then it explained that it's a numbing ingredient. It's a numbing formulation. So I went ahead and bought it, and I put it on. The very next day, that night, I can feel my face was just burning, and it felt really awful. So the very next day, I went to the urgent care, and they saw me, and I brought everything that I put on, and I showed the doctor what I did, and he said, you know, don't use any of those anymore. You have some kind of infection. I forgot what he said. It was some kind of infection, he said. I think he said it was staph. And he gave me... No, I don't remember exactly what he said. But he just said, don't use anything else. And he gave me a prescription ointment to use with all the instructions and all that good stuff. And he said, if it gets worse in 2 days, or it doesn't get better in 2 days, either or, please come back right away. So what we did was, before we left the facility, my husband made an appointment for the 2 days from that day. And it was for that, like, really early in the morning, like 8 o'clock, I think, or 9 o'clock in the morning. So, for our primary doctor. I did everything he said to do. I didn't do anything else. You know, he said, basically everything he said for me to do, I did. And I asked him, is there anything I should do? Should, you know, eat, drink, put on my face aside from the ones you told me? He said, no. Everything that I told you, don't do them, and do them as well. So I did. I'm sorry, I'm getting goosebumps because it was so gnarly. So, the next day, it was, I mean, that day, it was still, everything was still in pain. I couldn't really tell if I was getting any better. The next day, it got worse. My face was, swollen. But he did say in the first 24 hours, it could get worse before it gets better due to the fact that it can take a while for the medicine to kick in. So if there's a little bit of inflammation or just something, it's just no big deal. I had to wait 2 days. So 2 days after, I mean, that night, me and my husband just kind of waited. Well, you have an appointment for the next day, and we'll see. He did say 48 hours. So later that night, everything was still fine. It kind of did get a little bit worse, but it wasn't significant. Now, the day of the doctor's appointment, which would be a total of 2 days after, one of my eyes, I don't know if it was my left one or my right one, I couldn't even open my eye. My face was so swollen, like these. My one of my eyes was shut, and it was hurting my eyeballs because my eyelashes were going in. My other eye, there was just, like, it was half open. My face was completely swollen. It looked like the letter O, like the lowercase O. It was just so round and so swollen and incredibly freaking red that even till today, that experience was probably one of the gnarliest, if not the gnarliest I've ever experienced in my life. And so we go to the doctor, and I know my husband was kind of biting his tongue, but he looked really worried. And he's one of those people that a lot of times he can't really fake his emotion. He's a lot more emotional than me, I think. So he wasn't able to give a poker face. So I knew right away, and I have really bad eyesight. I wear contacts, and because I was sick, I can't pop them in. Even though he was all blurry, and when he was close by, I could tell that he was really worried. I could tell he was very concerned, really worried. And he just said, let's go to the doctor, eat your food, all that stuff. I could barely see everything. So we went to the doctor, and when I got there, my doctor immediately said, I can't help you. This has gone completely over and beyond what we expected it to be. Also, when we got in, the receptionist immediately said, "Oh my gosh, it got incredibly worse." And then I said, "Yeah, I know." She goes, "Oh my gosh, you poor thing. Does it hurt?" I said, "Yes, it hurts worse than it looks." And she goes, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Okay." So she was, she was very lovely and she was very sweet. And so my doctor just said, "What I'm going to do is I'm going to refer you to a specialist. And we're going to try and get you an appointment in a few hours to see if he can help you, because this isn't somewhat of an emergency." And so what he said he diagnosed me with was a staph infection and impetigo. I have never heard of impetigo. I've heard of staph before, but not impetigo. So it was pretty bad. They gave me 2 shots on my primary doctor, and I remember I was kind of worried about it. And of course, I didn't know, but my husband was also like super worried. And he said, "Oh my gosh, what if they have to like scrape like chunks of your face off?" And so I'm like, "Why are you telling me all this stuff? You're making me even more worried." And he goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Okay, fine. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that, blah, 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 whatever." And I'm like, and I told him, I'm like, "You're supposed to make me feel better and make me relax and eased up, not like stressed out. My face is as big as a pumpkin. And you're telling me all these things that they're gonna take chunks of my face off, not just a part of my skin, but chunks of it off, like take it off, and I'll have holes in my body." And then he just kind of stayed quiet the rest of that time. We waited for my doctor. And when my doctor saw me, he just went right away. He said, "Yep, I'm going to have to recommend you to my dermatologist. I know him, blah, 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 all that stuff." And then he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And so he had his nurse go through that. And so we were talking about it, and he gave me a lot of information. And they said, "We're able to book you a slot at 2 o'clock or 2 something." So that was about 4 hours away. And he said, as much as possible, because this is highly contagious, if you touch your face, make sure you wash your hands. And he suggested a specific soap to wash my hands before I wash my face, and then only use that to clean my face. By the way, before they saw me for my first initial visit, my face was somewhat like, I know this is really disgusting. So if you can't handle it, you don't have to finish my video because it's really gnarly. It felt like waterfalls. There's just like clear liquid coming off. There was a slight color to it, but it wasn't murky. It wasn't anything like that. It was clear. I think it was yellow. It was just disgusting. The next time I visited, which was my primary doctor, this was constant. I had to have I had to have with me a roll of paper towel, because this was constant. I just kept on, like, I had to have it, and I had to have it on both hands. It was disgusting. It was so gnarly that even when I think about it today, I still have goosebumps. I know I'm not very hairy, but yeah, you can't tell. The hair on my arms are transparent or blonde, so you won't be able to see it. And they're kind of short too. So, so they gave me a shot because it was incredibly so puffy and so crazy that, they were worried that they checked me for possibly if it went in my eye both times. That was a negative, which was good. So, in between waiting for when I needed to go to my next appointment that day, my husband dropped me off home and went to the pharmacy and got me my medicine and the soap that they use to clean, and also it helps. It prevents you from your skin feeling burning, and that's due to any kind of added fragrance to any kind of skin, like soap for, you know, washing your face or your body. So I used that the whole time. And every time, I was very careful. If I touched any of it, but when I went through so many rolls of paper towels. So what I would do is I would get a thick, I would fold it to a specific size that would just fill my cheek here and over here, and I would keep folding them. I mean, my hands were clean at the time. I would fold them, and I would have a stack ready. And then every time, you know, I would just have that and just hold it like this or like this, and I would just sit in a couch, because they would just constantly drip. It was just disgusting. I don't even know where it's from. It just kept dripping. So we went to the doctor, and both times I did mention to them, because you know how they ask you when the last time your period was and stuff like that. And I would just tell them, my husband and I are trying to get pregnant. So, you know, I just always tell them that just in case, because you never know. So I tell him that, and when I go to the specialist, he gives me a shot as well. He gave me some prescription medication. I think he gave me antivirals. My primary doctor gave me an antibiotic. So I had 3 shots that day and 2 different kinds of prescription medication, I believe. And I remember the first 2 shots when I got it, my one eye opened right away. It was just instant, and it's just because it's a shot and it goes immediately in your system. When I went to the dermatologist, he did the same, and my eyes popped up more. It wasn't as puffy, and he noticed that too. And you know, I had to go back, I think every 2 weeks or every week, or no, every 2 weeks. Every week or every 2 weeks. So whatever they told me to do, I always follow the directions to the T. So because it was contagious, my husband would sleep on the couch and I would sleep in the bedroom. And the reason for that is I move around in my sleep, and I didn't want any of the oozing to hit the couch or the sofa. So when I was sleeping on our bed, I would cover multiple layers of blanket, multiple layers of towels, as well as microfiber cloth on top of my pillow. In the first night, I think I put on 4, 5, maybe 6 layers of those. And I noticed that I didn't really need to use as many layers because it didn't really go through. So what I did was, if I thought I only needed 2 layers of the towel and 2 layers of the microfiber, I probably doubled the microfiber just to make sure there was an extra layer. And I would because I couldn't see the washer and dryer so much, I told my husband, you have to use, I believe he used gloves. I told him, you have to use gloves when when you're doing this, and I was using gloves as well. And after dumping them all in the wash, I think we were doing the laundry every day because of that, because I had rags with me the whole time and a towel. And so always cleaning all that. It was just disgusting. And I did ask him if there's some kind of special way to clean, to any kind of linen or anything that would touch the affected area. And my doctor just said just regular laundry detergent should kill all the bacteria. So he had to do that. I told him he doesn't really do laundry as much anymore, so it's kind of out of the loop. So I gave him direction on what he needed to do. So I think it was on a daily basis that we did the laundry. It was just, I used up that much. So after a few weeks, it got better. And that was my first month of being pregnant. After everything was better, maybe a few days to a week after everything is cleared, I got a rash on my face again. Prior to getting the rash, because as soon as I got the rash, I was worried it was going to be staph and impetigo yet again. So I set up an appointment, and it was for the next day or 2 days later was the soonest I could go in. So when I set up that appointment, or I think it was on a Friday I set up the appointment. So I went in on a Monday, I think, or a Tuesday, I forgot. But it was a few days. So what happened prior to that, waking up with a rash and all that stuff, and I was fine. I was healthy already, you know, all that. I finished all my medication, stuff like that. And this was like weeks. Oh, before I forget, when I was at my dermatologist, I was also told the shot that he gave me would make me, would delay my period. And at the time, if you can imagine, which is really gnarly and disgusting, and I hope if you want to do it, Google it, but you know, I'm warning you, it is gnarly freaking pictures and vision. So that would be kind of hard to, if you're the type of person that certain visuals will get stuck in your head, especially crazy ones, that might get stuck there. So if you're not those types of people that enjoy that is just too much for them, please don't Google it. Don't look for it, because I think you're really going to dislike it, and you're gonna be like, this is disgusting. So anyway, he gave me the shot, and he told me that, and because I was so sick for about almost a month or something, I kind of forgot about my period. I didn't think about it because I don't know. I mean, I don't know. For me, I always document every time I get my period. Every time. I make sure that I have a record. This is even years and years of not even trying to get pregnant, but you know, I just always noted that down. So I didn't think about it. And there was one night that I had a gender dream, and I had and I remember this. I had two separate dreams, and they were the same gender for a baby, and I thought that was kind of weird. That day or the day before or something, my husband was making bacon, or I was making bacon, and there was something about the smell that just, it was upsetting me. It was getting me kind of angry. It was irritating me. I was annoyed. It was making me nauseous. I ran to the bathroom and I thought I was going to vomit. But, you know, there have been times on occasion that I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, that sometimes you just feel a little off and you feel nauseous and you feel like you need to vomit and you're not pregnant. So I didn't think about it, you know, I didn't think about it. And this was before I took my pregnancy test. So, and the first ever time it was a few days, yeah, it was less than a week. It was several days, less than a week before I took my pregnancy test. And my husband and I went somewhere like a little far away that it took about an hour to get there. And I think on our way home, I was just really nauseous. I've never been the type of person that would get like, motion sickness, but I was just incredibly nauseous. We went to the grocery store, and I was just, I told him, I just feel really bad. I saw some strawberries and I just started eating them. I was in the store and I just started eating them. And I remember my husband's going, you know, you're not supposed to eat the food in the grocery store. And I'm like, okay, what do you think they would prefer? Me to eat a few strawberries, or I vomit on the floor and they clean it up? He said, yeah, point taken. I think they'll just prefer you just eating the fruit. So we did that, and no one really, you know, said, hey, what you're doing is crazy. You shouldn't be eating that. You should buy that before you eat it and stuff like that. At that point, I was just making sure that I can walk fine and just not feel horrible. On the way home, my husband was joking around, and he kept saying, because I said, what do you think is wrong with me? Do you think I have something else now? And maybe not a rash, but something different. Like, you know, because backtracking to that, for the past few months, every single month I got sick. It was different, but I was always getting sick. So he said, I think you're pregnant. And I said, I don't think so. And the reason I said that was because I didn't want to get my hopes up in case we weren't pregnant, because the previous month that we kind of did try, I wasn't pregnant. So I just didn't want to get my hopes up and get pregnant. And I didn't want to stress about it, because they, reading a lot about, I'm sorry, it feels like there's just something in the bottom of my nose or something. Like it's scratching. Anyway, so, and I also read that when you overthink it and you're stressing about it, that can also, prevent you from getting pregnant and all that stuff. So I didn't want to take a chance. So I just said, nah, I don't think so. So this was a few days, and I was still feeling kind of just different and off. And then a few days after that, I smelled bacon, and I just couldn't take it. It was so bad that I was so enraged. It got me so enraged. And I'm going to talk about that in a different video on why a background of that is. But at that moment, it felt like I was in the small box, and there was this intoxicating, overwhelming smell that made my head foggy, very irritated, hurt my head, made me nauseous, made me feel off, made me feel like I wasn't myself at all. So I was like, it was like a different person. I just completely got me angry, and then and so irritated, and then I just, you know, I kind of got really mad, and then I told my husband, I'm like, you have to really stop doing that. It's just, I can't stand it. I don't know what's going on, but I think I'm sick. You know, I just kept repeating the same things. And he just goes, but you said you wanted bacon. And I go, I know what I said, but I feel like I'm dying. Like, I feel really bad. And so he goes, okay. He turned on the exhaust, and I said, we have to Febreze everything. And then opened the windows, and then he said, what do you want me to do? And I think he ate it as fast as he could. And I was in the other side of the house, and he was in the other side of the house eating it as fast as he could. And I was just like, you know, Febrezing everything and not breathing when I can still smell it. And I still remember a little bit after that, I'm like, did you make bacon again? He goes, no. It was just, I could smell it on him. I said, you really have to go get mouthwash and brush your teeth, like really, really bad, because I can't stand it. I can still smell the bacon. This is driving me crazy. So he did all of that, and he was really patient about it. And he was just like, I don't smell anything. And I'm like, well, you know, sometimes when you're the one that has the smell of whatever it would be, sometimes you can't smell it. He goes, yeah, that is true. So he went along with it, and he you know, did what was necessary, and he came back, and I'm like, yeah, you smell better now, so it's okay. You can sit next to me. So that was fine. And then we kind of talked about it, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I eat bacon? And he goes, I think you're pregnant. And I kept on saying, no, I can't be pregnant. How can I be pregnant? You know, I've been sick for a while, and I mean, how can I be pregnant? It was just, I don't know. I guess in my head, you know, I was kind of like, not to get my hopes up, and also in a way, just thinking I was given so much medication that I was really worried, you know? So the day after, I mean, that night I had my gender dreams, which I'm not going to reveal which gender. And the next morning, I just thought, you know what? I have a pregnancy test. I'll just use it. And I went through my phone, and I went through my calendar, and I did miss my period for a few weeks. So I took the test, and it became positive. And as I said, I'm very prepared. I have 3 different brands of pregnancy tests. So I took all 3, and they all came back positive. So immediately I set up a doctor's appointment. My gynecologist, which I thought through my insurance, said she was an OBGYN. Apparently she's not. She was only a gynecologist and not an obstetrician anymore. When I called to do that, I did let them know. I'm like, you know, my insurance website still says she is, and that was the reason why I went to her. You guys might want to contact them and update that, because it's really misleading. And I mean, I'm fine with it, but a lot of people would not like that. And they're like, yeah, that's a really good point, and thank you, or I'm going to let the doctor know, blah, 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 blah. So I researched on my end from my insurance, PPO, on, you know, which ones would be a better one or the great one. So from my list, I picked this new doctor that I have now. However, his appointment, his calendar was completely filled. And I was at the cusp of the edge of the range of when you're pregnant. You should go, your first appointment should be specific weeks to specific weeks. And that was a few weeks of window, and I actually was in the cusp of the last week, or it was the week after. And when I was talking to the appointment setter, she was like, are you okay with that? I mean, you know, it's supposed to be from week whatever to week whatever. And I said, it's just a few days or a week difference. I mean, you know, it really wouldn't bother me. I don't think it should be fine. So I set up that appointment. Before, you know, because that was like, I think a little bit over a month that after. So when I went to my derm again, I had that crazy rash on my face. And before I went to the derm, I forgot. Before I went to the derm, I was looking it up because I had a positive pregnancy test. So what my husband and I did was, I mean, I did my research on how many weeks I was supposed to be, you know, at the moment, and I was getting far along up there, and I didn't, you know. So we did a lot of research. We were talking about it, and I already set both appointments up. Apparently, when you're pregnant, you should avoid facial scrubs for at least 10 years of, you know, at least 10 years since I've discovered facial scrubs at a younger age. I've used facial scrubs a minimum of once a day, sometimes minimum twice a day. I use it every day when I wake up and I wash my face, or if I want to shower in the morning, or if I want to wash my face first before having a shower, whatever. I use it every day. At night, when I wash my face to get ready for bed and I put my moisturizer, or I shower that night as well. Same difference. I mean, same thing. I will use a facial scrub. Apparently, when you are pregnant, especially in the earlier stages, your hormones can make your skin incredibly sensitive, and all the other senses. So, sense of smell. You need to be very in tune to your body, because the sense of smell is trying to tell you that these are certain things that you shouldn't eat, and that's why your body is reacting horribly to it, like bacon, because you're not really supposed to eat cured meat, due to the fact that it can be hard to cook, and it's not really completely cooked. And what they told me was, if I even eat deli meat, I have to toast it first, the meat. I mean, you can toast the bread as well, but anyway. So that was what my husband and I kind of thought might be the culprit for my impetigo and my staph, as well as my rash that I was going to go to my doctor in a day or two. So when we went, he's like, oh my gosh, you have this rash, you know, blah, 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 whatever, all that stuff. And then I told him I'm pregnant, and he said, this could be tied to that. And I said, yeah, I read that it could be, because I use facial scrubs at least once a day, probably twice a day. No, it's twice a day minimum. And so he said, that's probably why, because he told me, he goes, because you said you've never had a staph infection in your life, you've never had impetigos, you never had that severity of what you had the last time you were here. And I said, I know. And then you told me, you know, I'm going to be delayed on my period, so I really didn't think about it. So I always really prefer my husband to be with me when I go to serious places like a doctor, because of the fact that maybe I will forget to ask something, or maybe I will forget to retain information. So he asked, she did get all those shots, she did get all those medication, are they all okay? And he reassured us, showed us everything that, yeah, everything is fine. All the medications that I was provided with, prescribed, and also suggested over the counter, they were all safe for being pregnant. So that was fine. And he said at the time, because I've already had a shot that I had weeks prior, he wasn't comfortable in doing that again, just because he said this is the first time he's ever come across this, that someone would need the shot more than once while they're pregnant in their whole term. So we didn't really go with that. So he gave me like a prescription medication, and he also said I needed to take what is that? I needed to take Allegra and Zyrtec, either Allegra in the morning or Allegra at night, and then Zyrtec either in the morning. Whatever I took in the morning, I take the other one at night. I also noticed that I always put sunscreen on my face, But I also noticed that my face got even more inflamed when I was under the sun for maybe 15 minutes with sunscreen. It was only SPF 50, but I believe I had it on, I placed it on like an hour prior to being exposed to the direct sun, and that's when, you know, my face also kind of puffed up. So he was telling me to just kind of, you know, as much as possible, avoid that and stuff like that, and you know, with my rash, that was, this is still, this is in the second month of me being pregnant, I think. And I still haven't seen my OBGYN. So every day since the day my husband and I went somewhere like 50, 60 miles away from our home, on the way home, that was the first time I had some kind of nausea. I was nauseous 24/7. 24/7. 10 o'clock at night, 3 in the morning, I'm nauseous. So we bought a lot of lemon candy, the lemon drops, and I pop those. I mean, I have that in my mouth all day. That was the only thing that was helping me. So that's what happened. And I believe after I finished that medication, I got my face kind of puffed up a lot again. So because he liked me going back every week just to make sure everything was fine. I think I think 2 weeks after I went back, and my face got a little worse, but it was a different thing now. And so I said, you know, I am using sunscreen, and you know, it's not working and stuff. And he goes, how often are you using sunscreen? I said, I don't know. How often am I supposed to use it? He goes, you have to use it every 2 hours. And I said, I do use it every few hours, but not every 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. He said, what happens with sunscreen is if you apply it, let's say at noon, flat, every minute that goes by, the SPF goes down. And I said, oh my gosh. He said, maybe instead of applying it every 3 hours, because you're supposed to apply that every 2 hours, why don't you apply it every hour? Just because you're extra sensitive right now, and test that out. And if you're still having an issue with it, try to apply it even more often than that. And so after that, I would apply sunscreen on every 45 minutes and wait 15 minutes before I go out under the sun. So that was all in my first trimester. I still haven't used a facial scrub. I'm on my third trimester right now. I still haven't used a facial scrub since then. So I would really, really suggest to not use that at all. I've used Neutrogena foaming cleanser, and I've also used the La Roche. I don't know how to say it. La Roche Posay. Their facial cleanser as well. They both work fine. I've tested them fine. I haven't had any issues. So I've used the Neutrogena first and second trimester. I've used the La Roche second trimester and third trimester. I haven't used it in my first trimester, but it is very it's, what is that, hypoallergenic, all that good stuff, so it should have been fine. Another note is, because of that lemon candy that I kept taking in, I'm sorry, my dog is barking, that when I went to the first time on my doctor's appointment, that my glucose number was really high. My glucose levels were very high, and they were very, very worried about it due to the fact that they thought I just ate sugar from the container. And when I was talking to them, we had to go through everything that happened prior to going to that doctor's appointment that very day. And then I remembered I was sucking on lemon candy. it took me a while to remember that due to the fact that I was doing that for weeks now. I remember they asked me, did you add sugar to your breakfast? I said, no, I just had cereal and milk. And they go, did you put like a teaspoon or tablespoon or something, like a cup of sugar? I said, no. And then they're like, it's strange how your glucose level is so high. And I said, could it be anything else? They said, no, it has to be like just sugar, plain sugar. And then they said, oh, I had a few of the like lemon candy. And they said, okay, you just don't take that anymore. And I said, it was for my nausea. And they said, you have your nausea medication now, right? Just take that one. Don't, because they prescribed me that the day, and then I spoke with them the next day. They said, yeah, stay away from the lemon candy, stick with the nausea pill. Don't touch the candy again because it's kind of messing up your levels. So that was also something that I did. I am, before getting pregnant, I always had perfume on every day. And because my senses are so sensitive that I had to stop. So that's also another thing. When you are going into your first doctor's visit, make sure, they were very good with me. They gave me this packet, this huge baby bag that had the do's and don'ts, what you can't have, and all that kind of stuff. If there's not anything there that's not covered or you want an answer right away and you didn't go through that reading material, feel free to ask your doctor, because everybody's different and everybody has different medical history. I disclosed right away everything I was allergic to, what happened, and we did the shots, and my doctor looked through all that. We did come prepared. My husband came prepared and brought in all the medication that I took the whole time. And he looked through all of them, and he was like, he looked at his computer, and he said everything seems fine. So, so far everything is great. And also, I have been taking prenatal vitamins because I had a previous doctor, which I really didn't like that much, but she gave me really good advice. She said, because at the time I said, I'm not really ready to be pregnant yet, but what are your tips in case I don't see you before I want to try and get pregnant? What should I do? Is this something that I should be preparing? She said, even if you are still on any kind of birth control, take prenatal vitamins that will help prepare your body. So at the time, I was probably on prenatals before I got pregnant, several months, 6 months, I think, between 5 to 7 or 8 months. I was already in prenatal. She also did, because I missed my period one time and I called her office and they prescribed me this prenatal vitamin that cost after my insurance $100, and it was good for 30 days only. I thought it was ridiculous. So what I did is I researched different prenatal over the counter and I matched the ingredients to, whatever I needed, and what dose it would come in with the vitamin itself. So I found a really good prenatal vitamin. My new doctor now, they've told me that what I'm taking is, really great, and I've never had any bad reaction to that. So I really like that. So make sure to, if you're trying to get pregnant, you're watching my video, or you're planning to get pregnant in the very near future, like within a year, try to get a prenatal vitamin and just start taking it. It's like a multivitamin. It doesn't really affect a lot of different things in your body or your lifestyle that you should be worried about. So it kind of really won't hurt you, but also talk to your doctor, because like I said, everybody's medical history and everybody's body is different. And if you have any kind of issues medically that you're not supposed to take certain things. So just make sure you square it out with your doctor first. I am kind of thinking of doing a series of pregnancy vlogs just to make sure, I want to share my experience with everybody else, and I hope it can benefit somebody out there. Also, in the first trimester that I had, I didn't show at all. 0. it was as if I wasn't pregnant. Like you couldn't see anything, nothing. And I would wear like my t-shirts and a tank top, or no, not a tank top because it was still wintertime. Just t-shirts and, sweaters, and I still look like me. Nothing has really drastically changed. So I hope you really enjoyed my video, and I hope it was helpful, even if I help one person for a sliver of a topic. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I really do hope that it helps someone out there. If you have any questions, if I missed something, anything, if you just want to say hi, feel free to do everything in the comment section. Again, any kind of questions, anything, just make sure you put it down there. If I forgot something, or you think I forgot something, make sure you do that too. I will put my email, Instagram, and Twitter down there, and I hope you like my channel and my video, that you will subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for your time. I know this is a super long video, but I wanted to make sure that I could cover everything as detailed as possible, so that I could share the information that someone else might be seeking out there. Thank you so much again, and you have a wonderful rest of your evening. I hope you have a great day tomorrow. Bye.